In the early 1990s, I was attending college in upstate New York. It was one of those picturesque college towns built around a massive lake, beautiful in the warmer months. But once summer ended, the place practically shut down with it. By winter, the tourists were gone, businesses were closed, and the town felt abandoned, like a place everyone had quietly fled. There wasn't much to do when the cold set in. Snow piled up, the wind howled off the lake, and boredom became a constant companion. One of my housemates happened to be a weed dealer, which at the time worked out very well for me. I was a chronic stoner back then, and we decided to entertain ourselves by hosting elaborate dinners, where every of course was infused with weed. Appetizers, entrees, desserts, everything. The result was always the same: a group of extremely high people and an overwhelming disaster in the kitchen afterward. To deal with the mess, we made a rule. Anyone who joined the dinner had to help clean up. Word spread quickly. Soon, students from other houses and even other schools were coming over just to take part. Surprisingly, no one complained about the cleanup. Our house became the place to be during those long, dead winter nights. One particularly dark, bitter, and windy weekend night, we had 4 female students from another school over for one of these dinners. By the time the night wound down, it was close to midnight, and that's when we discovered their car wouldn't start. With no buses running and no taxis in town, they came knocking on my door. I was the only one with a working car. They lived about an hour away. I hesitated, but eventually agreed to drive them home. My housemate James volunteered to come along with me. The roads were barely lit, if at all, and the cold was brutal. Snow started falling lightly as we pulled out, then steadily grew worse. Before long, it turned into a full snowstorm. On a good day, we barely knew our way around our own town. Now, I was driving unfamiliar back roads in near whiteout conditions. My hands were locked tight on the steering wheel, every mile tense and nerve-wracking. Eventually, after what felt much longer than an hour, we reached their place. The house was an old converted estate, sitting far back from the road behind tall iron gates, with a long winding driveway leading up to it. As I turned into the driveway, the snowfall intensified. That's when we noticed 2 dull red lights glowing ahead of us in the distance. At first, we assumed it was another car, but as we drew closer, we realized it wasn't a vehicle at all. Moving slowly through the snow was a massive black stage pulled by a team of equally black horses. The red lights we'd seen were lanterns hanging on either side of the coach. The driver sat rigidly upright, dressed entirely in black, staring straight ahead. He didn't acknowledge us, didn't turn his head, didn't react as we carefully passed him on the road. Everyone in the car saw it. Once we got past it, the girls started asking questions, and so did we. Was this normal around here? Was there some historical reenactment group? Did people actually still use stagecoaches in this area? The girls looked just as confused as we were. They insisted they had never seen anything like it before. At the time, we chalked it up to something strange but explainable. Maybe a local tradition. Maybe some eccentric history enthusiast. Still, the idea of someone driving a stagecoach after midnight during a snowstorm didn't sit right. After dropping the girls off, James and I turned the car around to head back. The house was the only one at the end of that road, so we fully expected to see the stagecoach again on our way out. But there was nothing. No horses, no coach, no lanterns. Even more unsettling, there were no tracks, no hoofprints, no marks in the snow at all. The only tracks visible were our own tire marks from when we'd arrived. That's when it finally hit us. The realization came slowly, maybe delayed by the dinner, maybe by exhaustion, but once it landed hard. James and I looked at each other and both knew the same thing. We hadn't just seen something strange. We may have seen a ghost. And not just a ghost, but ghost horses, pulling a ghost stagecoach, driven by a man who didn't belong to this world. More than 30 years have passed since that night. Life moved on, as it does. But every time I run into James, no matter how long it's been, that conversation always comes up. And no matter how many times we talk about it, neither of us has ever been able to explain what we saw on that snowy road in upstate New York. This happened during a brutal cold snap one winter, when our city was hit by an intense blizzard almost overnight. Snow came down relentlessly, piling up fast, and temperatures dropped well below zero, the kind of cold that burns your lungs when you breathe, and numbs your face within minutes. At the time, I lived in a rough neighborhood. Gunshots were something I heard regularly weekly, sometimes more. Because of that, even though I loved taking walks at night, I never did. I was a woman, alone, without a large dog or any real protection, and walking after dark simply wasn't worth the risk. That night, however, felt different. There were already about 8 inches of snow on the ground, and the city was completely unprepared. Snowplows hadn't even attempted to clear residential streets. Combined with the extreme cold, I figured most people would be staying indoors. The pandemic was still ongoing too, which meant the streets were emptier than usual. It felt safe, or at least safer than normal. Still, I didn't go alone. I called a close friend who lived nearby and asked her to walk with me. She agreed, and we bundled up and stepped outside into a world that felt almost unreal. The snow reflected every bit of light, making the night glow softly. The air was silent, no traffic, no voices, no distant siren, just the sound of snow crunching beneath our boots. It felt like the city had been frozen in time, like we had the entire neighborhood to ourselves. We walked for a while, laughing, talking, enjoying the rare beauty of it all. With COVID restrictions, the blizzard, and the late hour, there was literally no one else around. That's when a white car passed us. It stood out immediately, not just because it was the only vehicle we'd seen, but because it had a noticeable dent in the back. It drove by slowly, tires struggling through the snow, and then disappeared down the road. We both noticed it, but didn't think much of it at the time. Eventually, my friend's feet couldn't handle the cold anymore, and we decided to head back. As we got closer to our homes, we reached a point where we normally parted ways. She turned off toward her place, leaving me with just 3 blocks to go. That's when I heard a car behind me, the same white car. It crept past me from behind, moving extremely slowly, way too slowly, and I instantly knew it wasn't just the snow forcing it to crawl. Every instinct in my body went on high alert. My heart started pounding, and despite the freezing temperature, I began to sweat. For the car to be there again, it would have had to turn around somewhere and deliberately come back. On a side street, in those conditions, it didn't make sense. The car was on my right side. Without stopping, I quickly crossed behind it to the left. Putting myself closer to my house, the vehicle slowed even more, and then came to a stop about 20 feet ahead of me right in the middle of the unplowed road. The engine idled. A moment later, the passenger door opened. A man stepped out. He casually walked around the front of the car toward the driver's side, positioning himself as if he was about to lean against it, like he was just waiting. Watching me approach, my instincts were screaming. I didn't hesitate. I turned and ran, slipping and stumbling through the deep, untouched snow straight into a narrow alley between 2 buildings. It was completely unplowed, thick with snow, but it was my lifeline. The snow saved me. There was no way a normal car could turn around or follow me into that alley without getting stuck. As I ran, I heard the man shout after me, "Hey, we're not going to hurt you." But his words meant nothing. Almost immediately, I heard the car door slam and the engine rev. The vehicle sped away, tires struggling as it fled back down the street. I didn't stop running until I was safely inside my building, heart racing, hands shaking, lungs burning from the cold air. That night taught me something I'll never forget. Not even a blizzard, not sub-zero temperatures, not empty streets, not a global pandemic. Nothing will stop predators from looking for an opportunity. And sometimes, the most dangerous thing in a silent, beautiful winter night is the only thing moving.